Fat trade paperback flocking to the
I am joined by the amazing Allison O'Toole, Dan Price, Andre Owen, Fred Kennedy,
Chip Zdarsky. Chip, thanks for coming.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and tonight we're joined by Nick Edwards, and we're going to talk about their new book, Stilettos. Nick, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Konrad. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, so happy to have you. Happy to learn about your new book. So, Nick, just to get it started, just get the ball rolling nice and easy. For those who've never seen your face, never heard your name, who is Nick Edwards?
Sure. So I have been writing comics now for about 4 years, and I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, but I actually just moved to New York last year. And this new book, Stilettos, is going to be my second full graphic novel.
Right. Now, question about that. You say full graphic novel. What length is that?
That is, around 90 pages.
Woo! Right on. Okay. Yeah. Then to get people hyped, tell us, what exactly is Stilettos?
Yeah, so Stilettos is a modern day cat and mouse revenge thriller. Focuses on two young women who are both dancers. Their names are Jenna and Tanisha. And really, Jenna is our main protagonist, at least at the start of the story. She's down on her luck. She's having a rough time of it. Her boyfriend just kicked her out. She just found out she was pregnant, and she's broke. And so these gals get roped into dancing at a high-end, glamorous bachelor party that's being held in a very isolated mountainous state. And nice. They very quickly learn that things may not be as they initially appear, and may in fact be a lot more sinister and dangerous for them. So they've got to rely on some wits and some tenacity in order to survive. And without giving too much away, because that's not quite everything, but that is what our book is about.
Perfect. Well, it sounds very interesting. I am very interested in hearing about sort of the development of the book, what you've done previously, and how that sort of feeds into this. But just to start with, already, you've got 12 days left in the campaign. So if you're watching now live or sometime in the next 11 days, this book is now guaranteed to be made. So back it, get in on it, help with stretch goals, whatever it is that is going on with this, which me and Nick are going to talk about in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Nick, fully backed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to say $2,250 goal.
It's like it was just a $2,000 US goal, 2,000 even. But yeah, no, we did it. Which is really, really exciting. We're so just really appreciate the backers and really appreciate the people who, individuals and a couple of retailers alike, who supported this project for us. So it's just, it's really a cool deal.
I love to hear that. Like, even retailers getting in on it. That's amazing. And you mentioned a little earlier there that you've got, or this is your fourth book and your second graphic novel, right?
I didn't say fourth book. This is second full graphic novel. But I've been writing comics for about 4 years, so I think that might be where the number 4 came from.
Yes, awesome. Okay, and just for the folks out there, what kind of genres or stories have you previously told?
Pretty much so far, it's just been horror stuff. Which, maybe says a little bit about me. That wasn't even what I was necessarily intending to do, which I love horror stuff. I'm been a horror geek for most of my life, but that wasn't necessarily what I was intending to go out and write. But it's kind of played out that way so far, and it's been really cool.
Interesting. Okay. Then in that case, I guess what I'll ask is, given the previous 4 years, your now second graphic novel, which is successful, how did you feel about it coming into this as someone who's done this before, and the previous works that you have had made? were they all through Kickstarter? Did you use other platforms? Did you just straight get them done? What was your previous methods?
Yeah, so really to start with each book to start. So this is second full graphic novel. This is also the second time I've collaborated with my good friend Scott Beecher. I write and he draws, and the two of us really we work together. Scott started this label, Unearthly Comics, based out of Dallas, and so he brought me in a few years ago after our first book. And after that campaign went well, and so now we both run the Unearthly label, which is a lot of fun. And so to start, what we do is usually once we get like 24 to 28 pages done, like a first chapter of the book, we'll do like a small print run of that, just like as an individual issue. And
Right on.
yeah, and there's a printer that we do that, they can do semi-small batch print runs that are pretty affordable, which is
Awesome.
really nice. Yeah, it's great. And so we just kind of started like that, and then these Kickstarter campaigns have been great to save up the money for a large scale print run on, like, a perfect bound book, and for the full graphic novel, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got there's a third one right now that we just did another small print run for a preview book for, with a different artist, my friend Dave Schuler, but that campaign is still probably quite a ways off. But so yeah, it's a mixture of just funding what you can out of pocket, and then for the big things, just trying to put it out there and hope people like it.
I mean, that's what it is. Pursue what you love, work hard at it, and seemingly for yourself, this seems to be going quite well, which I like. So for the tale of Stilettos, as you mentioned, it's basically two girls that, for various reasons, find themselves needing money and end up in a mountaintop estate with all sorts of wonderful people, I'm sure.
Yes.
What type of story is it? And by that, I don't mean, it's a horror comic, obviously. But you've taken these characters and put them in a secluded area. Is it kind of along the lines of one of those like locked room stories or one room stories? Is it like, what kind of stuff can people expect?
Yeah, no. So not necessarily a locked room story, but definitely a story where people are forced into situations that they didn't predict, and that then they have to do unconventional things to survive. And it might not seem this way at first, but definitely wrote Stilettos as a sort of unconventional monster story. Then that's less of a spoiler than you might think if / when you get around to reading the book. But it's you got to find out. A huge influence on this story was the classic short story, and you know what? I actually butchered this author's name last time I tried to say it. Yeah, The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell. So if you've ever, if you've ever read that story, it's it's pretty old, but if you've ever read that might give you a bit of a hint on what our girls have to deal with.
All right, right on.
Mm-hmm.
And for those out there, there are many versions of this, as you mentioned.
Yes.
It is quite an old one, but a good one. That's sick. I like it. And I guess what I'm curious about, Nick, is, as you mentioned, he's your friend. You've worked with him quite a bit. When it comes to the art and the process for making the book, one of the things I get a kick out of is asking how people work together. Because, as you mentioned, he started Unearthly Comics, and then you've come on, and now you both run it. When it comes to the creation of the stories, are you the writer and he's the artist? Is it some sort of blend of back and forth on the stories? What's that dynamic like?
So I've said a couple times, we've done now 2 books. So for our first book, which is called Gatorman Kills, Scott really, he and I met, exchanged information. I had sent him some like short scripts I'd written, and we talked about those. And then he had this idea for this slasher character, kind of his own slasher, because we're both horror geeks. That was something we bonded over really early after meeting. And so we wanted to make something that was like a tribute to 70s and 80s slasher movies, and that's what we did with this book, Gator Man Kills. And he had this character fleshed out and knew kind of what he wanted to happen, but we talked through it, and I wrote the script based off of a lot of his ideas with a lot of myself thrown in there. So that was what we did for this book. And then for Stilettos, that was really an idea that I came up with originally, but Scott has been an awesome collaborator since day one, and he and I talked through the story so much, and he made so many great like suggestions and changes that are honestly better than what I had originally thought of, and so the end result is very much just like our baby, the two of us. And he's so great to work with, and he's a very generous artist, and he's like, on top of it all, he's also like really good. And so he's just he's the man. Yeah,
I dig it. Like, I'm glad to hear that when you work well together, you are very comfortable, clearly bouncing ideas off each other, running through stuff with each other. Because that kind of teamwork, especially in comics where it is so extremely collaborative, goes a long way. And I am sure readers of Gator Man will be able to pick up on Stilettos, the way that as a team you create, and of course enjoy a whole new story, which will not have any spoilers in this interview.
we can keep him light, at least. We could dance around some things. Yeah.
So we're just about at 15 minutes. So I do like to ask, for the folks out there in YouTube land who've maybe never done a Kickstarter, they're not familiar with this process at all. I have a couple questions that I hope ease the mind. So you mentioned this is going to be about 90 pages, correct?
Yes.
And currently, how much of those 90 pages are completed from script, drawn, inked, all that stuff? Because we've already got previews here.
We are probably about 75 to 80% of the way done with all of the internal art for the book. Penciled, inked. We've got 2/3 of the book is now even fully lettered. So, wow. So, and I knew that we would need like some more time to finish. So I wanted to wait to start this campaign until we had most of the book done. And so that's what we did. And so hopefully, that the goal for that is to make it a shorter time period between the end of the campaign and actually fulfilling our commitments to the backers. And so we're hoping, if everything continues to go according to plan, and I'm knocking on some wood right now, but we're hoping to have the finished books in everybody's hands sometime this fall.
Love it. And thank you for giving the timeline. That was going to be the next question. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I guess I am curious, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. The art on the book, it looks as though it's drawn like analog, actual pen on paper. Is that the case, or is this all done digitally?
It is done digitally, believe it or not. Scott primarily works on a big ass tablet and uses a stylus, and so I know his stuff looks hand drawn, and it is hand drawn. It's of course, he is using his hands to draw, but he uses a lot of crazy softwares and stuff I can't draw to save my life. I can barely do a stick figure. So it's hard. And so seeing, and I've watched him work, and it is just like hypnotizing. I just like how he does what he's able to do. How any like artist like this is able to do what they do is just astounding to me.
You know what? 100%. Like I do another show with a local artist to me, up in the Ontario area, called Keith Gratchow, and basically it's doodling and me and him just sort of shooting the breeze, so to speak. And yeah, when I get to watch him do stuff, sometimes I'm like, how are you even pulling this out? And
Yeah.
I've said, yeah, I've said many times, I love the lie that is art, right? Getting me to see this random stuff, and then all of a sudden it's an image. The best part.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, very well put.
Now, one thing I am curious about for the art, like we've got some beautiful shots. Obviously, the cover, which is fantastic and easily very well communicates sort of what this is about. So good job either to you, to Scott, or to both of you for designing it so well.
No, anything visual like that, yeah, that was Scott. I mean,
Scott.
definitely, we had a lot of talks about just like the tone of the book and the look and feel, everything. But in terms of the visuals, yeah, that was pure Scott. I still remember when he first sent me the cover image, and I was like, I just loved it immediately. So yeah, man, all the visuals, got to give him all the props in the world. Yeah.
Go Scott.
Yeah.
So my next question then is going to be, can you walk us through what sort of the minimum buy-in is, which I'm assuming is a digital tier,
Yeah.
A physical copy, and then one of your larger ones. And I will happily bring it up on screen to make life easy here.
Oh yes, thank you very much. Yeah, no, that's great. You got my back. So yeah, to start off, yeah, we got the $5 digital tier, our on-demand tier. We tried to give all the tiers fun names. So it's the on-demand tier gets you, and every backer gets thanked. And there are those options you can just put in $1 because you believe in it or whatever. If you do that, we will thank you as well. So just yeah, because that's nice. You don't have to do that. But yeah, so the on-demand tier, just the digital PDF. And then we go to so we've still got yeah. So the normal cover price for the book is $20. But we've still got a few open slots for early backers. So you can get both the paperback and the physical paperback and the PDF for $15. And that is still open. So that is pretty cool. So come on down if you want to save $5. And then
I will quickly interject. This is a 90-page book. It is not a 24-page floppy. It is a full-on graphic novel, hence the cost difference.
Yes, it is a full paperback with a bound spine and everything. So you can you can turn the pages. There are no staples here. No offense to Staple Comics, but yeah. So it is a little more heavy duty.
Love it. And then what else have we got going on?
So yeah, just this is standard trade paperback for when people get tired of the free tier, which I think some people opted into that anyway. Either they maybe just didn't understand or just wanted to be nice. So that's cool. All right, this yeah, we'll take it. So this next one, the Grindhouse double feature tier, this is for people who missed our first book, Gatorman Kills. This is just a cool way for them to get in on it at a discount, because Gatorman Kills also cover price is $20, and this you get both books for $30, and you get both physical and digital copies. So we just if there was anybody out there just stumbling on Unearthly as a brand for the first time, or this book, we just wanted a quick way to get both books in their hands.
Boom, done deal. $30, easy peasy, 42 Canadian, and I think it's fantastic. Now, for Gatorman Kills, is that also 90 pages?
Yes, it might be. It's definitely more than 80. But we did so. Gatorman Kills we originally printed as 3 24-page issues. And then the last issue became a little bit longer. I think we went up to like 28 or 32 pages. But then at the back of that book, we put in even some extra pages that weren't in the
Nice.
initial issues. And we got some guys to do pinups and some really cool art from some really cool artists that Scott and I have gotten to know. And we are planning on doing the same stuff here with Stilettos. But yeah, Gatorman
cool.
Kills is also a full-length graphic novel.
Awesome. So huge bundle, great savings. $30 gets you everything from Unearthly Comics. Gotta like that.
Yeah, no. So if you're interested, there's that, and then the next tier is for $40, and this is the director's cut tier. No Gatorman Kills here in this tier, but we really wanted to. Well, Scott and I both love a nice comic book gimmick, especially for like a cover, and so and I can actually show you what it looks like. But Scott designed this very cool image right here, and we are going to do a variant cover for the trade paperback that is this image, but it'll be holographic. So it's just like it's gonna look sick, and so you'll also get a version of the regular version of the paperback as well. So you're really getting two versions, but that variant cover, it's gonna look pretty cool. And it's holographic, hence the price increase. And then finally our last tier, which we're calling our champagne room tier. That is for our retailer friends, any shops or independent stores who want to put a few copies of the books on their shelves. That is 5 copies of the paperback at half cover price. So 5 copies for $50.
Nice. And then okay, so they could then turn around and sell them at the 20, which is sort of your MSRP.
Yep.
Love it. That's a nice little 50-50 price share.
Yeah. And so we wanted to do something for any retailers out there who wanted to support indie comics, make it easy for them. And I guess, there's no way of stopping some random person if they wanted to buy that as well. Yeah. So if they wanted to buy 5 copies of the book, why not? But so that's available too. And those are our tiers. Yeah, we did a lot more additional goodies and add-ons with the Gatorman Kills campaign. But honestly, with this campaign, we just wanted to kind of streamline things. So we took our target goal down a little bit, and we just really wanted to focus on the book first and getting the book done. And we're just really excited about it.
I mean, I'm glad to hear it. And with the way that you're offering all the different books, one, highly affordable, which is appreciated. Easy for people to get their hands on, which I think is fantastic. You're almost done the book as is. It's fully back, so it's going to happen.
Whether we like it or not, it is going to happen. We now have to make this book. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you do get to turn around as a writer and go, Scott, that's it. You've got to do 20 or the rest of the book. Nope, can't say it otherwise.
Yeah. No.
And now one question I have to ask. Obviously, the book is about dancers. I don't see a rating on it, but I imagine within the context of the book, there's some nudity, of course.
There is some nudity. There is a pretty high amount of violence, adult situations, adult language, substance use. This is not a kid's book. Nothing against kids' books. I would actually kind of like to write a kid's book someday, but
right on.
This is not that.
Very cool. And for the folks out there, because you've called the one tier the Grindhouse theater tier, that makes me think of the Grindhouse double feature, of course. Is that the kind of sort of violence that they can expect from it? Is it more suspenseful and the kind of psychological, let your brain fill out the bad parts, or are they getting like a copy of Saw?
The violence is pretty. There's a pretty good amount of on-screen violence and gore, on-page violence and gore, so to speak. And I love the first Saw movie. I don't know if this is necessarily a story that people would consider torture porn, but I get a very perverse sense of satisfaction seeing bad things happen to bad people, and so I wanted to throw some of that into this story. So
love it.
there might be some violence that some may consider a little cathartic or satisfying. There's some of that in there.
Good. Okay, so this is going to be sort of a fun horror. By the time someone's done reading the book, they should not be traumatized. They should probably have that odd sense of like maybe triumph is not the right word, but
I one of my favorite pages is the last page in the book, and
awesome.
I want people to like kind of breathe maybe a sigh of relief or pump their fist or whatever. That was the goal here for sure.
All right. Well, I mean, this is sounding and shaping up to be a very fun thrill ride for the folks out there. Again, that's Stilettos. Excuse me. Now, one of the things I always enjoy is sort of the variant covers or sorry, not the variant covers. Wow, but the different sort of art takes that people have, and as mentioned, so Gator Man Kills. You've got this absolutely like theater-esque look to it. Stilettos has a more, I guess I would call it modern look, more comic book look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the style within the book itself, like let's say we've got the art here, it's all black and white and grayscale. Was there a particular look that you wanted to make sure that the book had for the script? Did you write it with Scott in mind? I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, wrote it with Scott in mind from day one. Absolutely. Definitely wanted to throw off some. So for Gator Man Kills, since we were so influenced by old slasher movies, and I don't know if are you much into horror at all? Do you watch like a lot of old slasher type stuff?
I'm not honestly too into horror.
Hey.
I got a good dose of it as a kid, and I went, that scares the hip, So
That's
throw
cool.
out some titles for me, and I'll be able to follow.
That's cool. But really, why I bring that up is like for example, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the movie like looks and feels gross, and like everybody's like sweaty, and like just it looks like just like dirty and grimy and like just gross. And so that's what we were going for Gator Man Kills, because we really just wanted to emulate that look, and have a book that just made you like feel grimy and gross. And for Stilettos, I wanted to kind of capture the feeling of being in like a really sleazy strip club at like 3 a.m. And that is sort of what we were talking about it initially, and then Scott really took it and ran with it. So kind of like a different kind of dirtiness in a way.
Interesting. Okay. And I love that you're taking so much time to really think about how you want the book to feel as readers are reading, right? Because it would be very easy to just show, oh, here's a sleazy strip club at 3 a.m. and the kind of odd, weird, and uncomfortable interactions that people get into. But then there's going to the extent of, I want this to feel like that and actually like elicit that emotion. How much planning goes into executing that? And what are some of the, again, spoiler free, but what are some of the details, even like innocuous stuff to the story, that are put in there to help do that?
I think that anybody who has known a guy who has like gotten too drunk and acted a fool, or been like, creepy on a woman or anything, or just like acted like a total douchebag and acted like a jackass, there will all be elements that are familiar to people when they read this book. And so much of it comes out through the art too, like so much of it you see at a sleazy party where people are doing drugs and just letting their inhibitions run wild, and then when that becomes excessive and becomes a problem, what happens next?
Right on. And then we get into things like the forgive me, I forget the wording you quite used, but the unusual monster, the unexpected monster.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Very cool. Well, I mean, I have a feeling that readers are going to love this. It from even just the art that is up, and again, you've got 80% of it done. I enjoy it. It looks visually interesting. It looks busy, ever so slightly confusing, especially this page, which goes a long way to show, like, from a design aspect, from a writing aspect, the thought that goes into this. So I am imagining you are a scholar of horror. You take in a lot of movies, perhaps read a lot of books.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
Perfect. Is there any particular shot or scene from a particular movie that you wanted to pay homage to? Like you mentioned how you wanted it to feel dirty in
Mm-hmm.
its own way, like Chainsaw Massacre. But was there a particular shot or scene that you really wanted to kind of copy?
Oh man, so there is actually one very specific scene, and in order to keep things vague, I can't give the actual scene away. But of all things, it wasn't even necessarily from a horror thing. It was actually from Game of Thrones. Um,
Oh, okay.
from one of the middle seasons of Game of Thrones, and I'll just I'll leave it there. But it was very specifically like I want to do my version of this scene, and I think it works really well. It worked extremely well in Game of Thrones, and I think it works pretty well here too. So there is a little bit of that, yes.
Awesome. So our Game of Thrones nerds, our fantasy nerds out there, pick this up. Enjoy the ladies, enjoy the horror, the tension, and see if you can't spot that scene. Then in that case, we're 32 minutes into the interview. We've covered quite a lot of details. For anyone tuning in now who maybe didn't catch it the first time, uh, can you let us know, Nick, what will a digital physical copy run someone? And then after that, where can they follow you online?
Sure. So I'll do the online bit first. So first,
Sure.
so yeah, we are Unearthly Comics. That's the label's brand. Our website is pretty simply www.unearthlycomics.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Unearthly Comics, all one word, all lowercase. You can also follow us on Twitter at Unearthly Comics, but we never tweet anymore, so they would kind of be pointless. And yeah, so follow us on there. We post, especially on Instagram, all the time. And then for the pricing of everything for Stilettos, our new book, so you can get you can go to Kickstarter, and a digital copy will just cost you $5 for the PDF. That's it. Again, it's going to be around 90 pages of art, so that's a pretty good value right there. And if you want a physical version of the trade paperback, we've still got a bunch of early backer slots still left open, so you can get that for $15 if that's still available, or you can always get it at regular price for $20, which is still a pretty good deal. And so yeah, that's how much it'll cost.
Beauty. I love it. Thank you for letting me know where to find you. When it comes to the stuff that you post online, is it mostly updates of the book? Are you posting sort of life stuff? Like what can people find there?
Yeah, so I hate social media with a
I love it.
deep personal passion. I hate it, hate it, hate it. I don't have like a personal Instagram account. I have an old Twitter, but I couldn't tell you the last time I've tweeted. I just hate it. And so we have the brand account. So yeah, it's really much just book stuff. We'll announce when we're doing like shows and conventions, or like, in-store signings, free comic book day, like stuff like that. And then also, just like I post a lot of Scott's art on there too, or and Scott and I are both comic collectors too, so we might post like a picture of like a new issue that we got as well. So it's really just mostly comic stuff. That's pretty much it.
Love it. Keep it simple, keep it easy, get people back in the campaign. And again, absolutely, folks, if you're out there watching with us live now, please do go to Google, Stilettos, Kickstarter, You'll find it, back it, enjoy. It's happening, fully backed already. There's no concern about that.
Mhm.
Um, then I guess you know what, Nick, we can get into some fun stuff.
Let's do
I
it.
Yeah, a part of doing this show and a part of what I like about this is, um, when I came into reading comics, I would be like, oh, I really like Jim Lee, I like Tony Daniel, and I knew these people through their art, through their writing, through the stories I fell in love with. But I remember the first time I went to a con, I walked by a table and oh god, who was it? It was I think Brian Azzarello.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, it was
Nice.
at a con, right? And
Yeah.
the name's there, Brian Azzarello, and I looked down and luckily, this smaller compared to me. Like I'm 6 foot, almost 300 pounds. Like I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
So this smaller, skinnier, bald, bearded dude is there, and I'm like, "Hi, are you Brian Azzarello?" Right? Because I'd read his stuff, I liked his stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," because I'd never seen a picture. Because in comics, we don't get that.
Right. Yeah.
So I like to get people to know you a little bit. So you mentioned earlier your collection. You guys obviously read comics.
Oh yeah.
What I guess within your collection, whether it's books, whether it's I don't know stamps, horror movie poster, whatever it is that you collect and enjoy, what's something that's maybe not the most rare, maybe not the most valuable, but something that makes you the most happy when you get to see it, have it, hold it, use it, whatever it is.
In my personal collection.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy. I don't even need to think about this. So I love the X-Men, and so I
Oh,
love I
right on.
love comics in general, but I specifically in recent years really have like just focused on the X-Men. And my favorite X-Men run or event or whatever you want to call it is from the 90s, The Age of Apocalypse,
Oh,
which
right
is
on.
yeah, well, the grim dark edgy alternate timeline where everything's like scary and it's just like it's so sick. And so I actually have collected every single individual issue from the Age of Apocalypse. And so that
Whoa.
and it was really cool. And I did it so back in 2022 I actually I guess technically I was homeless. I was working remotely and I was just like driving around in my car just around the country. And I was going to comic shops in every town that I visited. And I just like kind of was like, I want something specific to look for. So I was able to buy like at comic shops all around the country. Just like that was how I kind of built my Age of Apocalypse collection. And that was it was really a cool year. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was dope. So yeah, I love these books, man. The art is so sick, and just all the character redesigns are so cool, and it's just some of my favorite comics of all time, for sure. So that's my crown jewel as a collector. And I don't even think any of those books are like super valuable, but I just having the whole run is cool to me.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? Whatever. So I downtown Toronto, there's a shop called Nowhere Comics. It's a mainly online store, but they have a physical location, and I work there. And I've had collectors come in who like these people are collectors, right? They've gone out and been like, "Oh, I want this specific issue, so I'm going to sell these CG Seed issues to buy this one," and they get real strategic. And I'm like, "Yeah, but every time they tell the story, they're like." Oh, I remember as a kid reading this, or this is really an important story to me, and I love that, right? Like the collectors who buy 10 issues of whatever because the movie's coming out, so they're gonna sell it later. I'm like, but like when it's
Like
someone like that, or
speculators.
yeah, the
Yeah,
spec guys, like I respect it, and if you can make a business out of it, you do you, right? Like no
sure.
problem. But there's something about like getting to talk to people who have cool stories like that where, like you said, it might not even be a valuable run in its totality. There might not be a
Yeah.
key issue in it, but it's something that you did that's really cool. Now, some comic shops, if you're lucky, I don't have any on the table. They will stamp the book with their with the backer board will sometimes have like the name of the shop, the location, the phone number, something. Are you
Cool.
lucky enough that any of those issues have that, so you can kind of trace your trip?
You know, so I was able to trace my trip because I actually kept note of every city that I slept in.
Oh,
In
cool.
that year. Yeah, yeah. So I'm able to trace the trip that way. But I would have to go. I'm sure a couple of them had to, but I would have to go.
Probably, yeah.
I would have to go back and look. I actually never specifically looked for that.
Fascinating. And I mean, like you said, you were work from home, which means as long as you have laptop and an internet, you can work.
Yeah.
Um, what made you want to do that? Like, was that like, oh, crud, rent is too high and the job doesn't pay enough? Was it just like, screw it, let's go on an adventure? Because that's a huge undertaking, but also extremely cool. So, Nick, tell me, you got to tell me.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I think I mentioned I'm from Dallas, and I had pretty much lived in and around Dallas for my whole life up till that point. And yeah, 2022 rolled around, and the world was seeming to bounce back a little bit from COVID, and I wanted a change. I was just ready for a change in my life, and so and my fortunately my job accommodated for it, and so I just decided to. I did My lease was ending, and I just decided like screw it. I'm gonna try it, and it was awesome. It was so cool. I slept in over 30 states that year, and it was awesome. Drove at one point from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, and it was crazy.
My God.
Yeah.
So, okay, I don't need to know what I guess your job is. My question is, did your bosses know you were doing this?
So I told them that I was doing it about 2-ish months after I started doing it, because I wanted to say, look, I've been doing this and still like
Ah,
the job's not being disrupted. And thankfully, yeah, everybody was cool with it. So it wasn't disruptive at all.
that's sick. And I imagine it was a lot of like hit Starbucks, hit a
Oh yeah.
gamer cafe,
Oh
like
yeah.
wherever you can get strong internet. Um, I guess so. The now question I have to ask is, what kind of vehicle was this in?
Oh man. So started actually that's a funny question to answer. So started I actually got a Sprinter van, and it was a class B Sprinter van, and I started like that. It was like one of the smaller ones of those, but yeah. So started in that, and I drove that thing out from Dallas out to the East Coast in the first leg of the trip. And as I was driving it in that first few weeks, even it was pretty quick. That thing used diesel gas, and it was just a gas guzzler. And this was springtime 2022. So in a lot of places diesel gas was like upwards of like $6 a gallon. And
Oh,
yeah. And so I very quickly realized like I can't afford this. Like it was more expensive than rent was my gas prices. And so
woo.
yeah. So a few months in, I actually got rid of the van, and I just drive a little Mazda 3. That's my personal car.
Okay.
A 2020 Mazda 3. And so it's just like a little sedan, and that was it. That thing took me all around the country, and that it was great. I think it was all things together. I think it was maybe around like 25 to 30,000 miles.
Nice.
By the end of the year. But yeah, no, it was awesome.
And as you mentioned, you were able to go through and get the run of Age of Apocalypse, which is in and of itself that's sick, and that's like the coolest way to possibly get any run, which is just I'm just gonna drive everywhere and find it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming you were fortunate enough that whatever furniture you had from this place you were living in, your friends, family, somebody was able to take it, or you sold it.
Sold some stuff. I had been living in a house with some buddies that like I moved in after, so they had all of like the living room furniture and everything like that. So I really just had to furnish my bedroom. And so I didn't have a ton of furniture, and like I
Nice.
let those guys keep some like patio furniture and things like that. So
Yeah.
I didn't have a ton of stuff, but my parents fortunately just have a big garage, and so they let me put some stuff in there too. So everything worked out.
Now, because you've mentioned you've moved from Dallas to where you are now, and again, where are you currently living?
New York City.
New York. Now, does it just so happen that at the end of this huge trip of yours, you landed in New York and you were like, all right, I'm staying?
And it's just sorta. So I did 3 weeks in New York. I stayed in Brooklyn for like 3 weeks as part of that trip, and I just
Cool.
loved it, man. And I had been to New York before, and I have family up here, and I'd been several times before, but that was just, and I just came away from that with the intention of going back to Dallas, but just like New York, it just really stayed with me. And so last summer, summer 2023, I got an opportunity. My friend was going out of the country and she has an apartment up here. And so she asked if I wanted to sublet her apartment for the summer. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I came up. And so then I did 2 months last summer. And I just really, I was like, okay, I want to try to move here. I want to try to do it. And so, signed a lease here in November.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So now talk like to loop back into comics. Huge Daredevil fan. Obviously, it takes place in Hell's Kitchen.
I just saw him walk by. Yeah, he's,
exactly.
Because I live in Hell's Kitchen.
No, shut up. Do you actually?
I swear to God, 9th and 46th. I swear to God. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's insane. So one thing that I've heard, like obviously in the Netflix show, Matt Murdock says it, that New York gets in you and it becomes you. What about New York bit you like that? What is it that made you want to go, friends and family, I'm going to move away from Dallas to New York. I'm going to be here. What was it? What was that initial thing?
There is just an energy to the city that is really, really hard to describe, but it is just alive in a way that and I've lived all over the country now, and and it is just alive in a way that isn't like any place that I've ever lived. And also something that I didn't realize about New York until I spent a good amount of time here was everybody has this misconception about New York that because there are so many people around that there's no privacy. But it is actually an extremely private place, because it's almost like so many people are just doing their own thing and in their own world and going about their day that it's almost like you're alone. And it's really, really nice. And that's not to say that, it's not to say that I don't have, friends or people that I spend time with or anything like that, because I love the people that I get to hang around up here. But it's just, I love it. It's been great for me, just in terms of not even so much giving me ideas on what to write about, but I just feel energized, and writing seems to come pretty naturally to me here. More naturally than in a lot of other places that I've been. So it's really great. There's just anything and everything you want to do, and you can be exactly who you want to be in New York.
I dig it. That is so cool. Well, Nick, thank you for sharing that incredible story.
Yeah.
I'm glad being there is whatever it is, that energy is helping you want to write more and be able to do that. Once again, the folks out there, they should go onto Google. They should Google Stilettos Kickstarter. Back this book. They can get a physical copy for $5. They can get a digital copy, or rather, sorry, digital copy for $5. They get a physical copy of a 90-page graphic novel for $15. Regular price is $20. So get in on that early backer. There's still slots available. As you mentioned earlier, Nick, they can follow you at Unearthly Comics on Instagram. They can go to your website, Unearthly Comics, where you and Scott have your books. They can get everything that you've got out, which is going to essentially be the 2 books, which is fantastic, easy to understand. So I think I'll end off with my last 2 questions for you, Nick. So we've covered a lot about your favorite run, but I'm curious, currently, what is it that you're reading?
What am I reading? So I just finished Dune, the original
like the actual
novel. Yeah, the actual novel Dune. Because I don't just read comics. I read too many comics, but I don't only read comics. So I just finished Dune, and shortly before that, I very quickly read through Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. Crazy title, right? But if you know anything about her story or whatever, it's really tragic, but that was a good read. Those are the last two books I read. I was just very invested in the whole recent era of modern X-Men comics, and so there was the whole sort of finale event, the fall of the House of X, and you work at a comic store, so I was up on all that, the whole Krakoa era forever, and it was not. The ending didn't quite match the highs that had come earlier in the era, but I still would say I overall enjoyed it. And so that's been really what I've been reading. Yeah.
I love it. Well, I will say, as someone who pretty well, starting in TV and stuff, I've always been into comics in comic book media, starting from Batman the Animated Series as a kid all the way up to, I still read Batman. I'd never really read a bunch of X-Men, and then when Krakoa started, a friend of mine was like, "You should really read Powers of X, House of X," and I was like, "Okay." Dude. And then the graphic novel came out. I picked it up, and now it was issue 700 of one of the Marvel books
of Uncanny X-Men was the finale. Yeah.
And it's been 5 years, if not more.
It was July 2019 that House of X #1 came out, so it was almost 5 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, I will honestly have to go out because I loved the House of X, Power of X. I thought it was interesting, getting people into
fantastic. It was so good. And reading those issues as they came out, because they put them out, they were coming out every week. And so it was electric. That was one of the coolest experiences of being a comic fan, of reading those individual issues as they came out. That was amazing.
Awesome. And you know what? That is one thing I've talked about before. The medium of comics is so cool because of the medium itself, and how sometimes stories are meant to be read piecemeal, and there's something about physically picking up the book and reading it and putting it down and picking up the next one. Sometimes stories work better as graphic novels. Given you've created Stilettos to be a 90-page book, I am sure to pick it up and read the whole thing will make more sense than if you had it piecemeal. It's just a cool medium to work in. Congratulations on the successful campaign.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah. So Nick, my last question, hopefully an easy one. Who do you think we should have on next?
Man, well, I was I saw your whole intro reel with some of the creators that you've gone. So my favorite comics writer right now is, and he has been for years, is Kieran Gillen. I think he's the best person writing comics right now. His stuff is so good. His X-Men stuff was fantastic, but I mean, Wiccan Divine was great. Die was so good. He's got another new series that's coming out soon that looks really, really cool, but I can't remember the name of it right now. It's some like Power Fantasy or something like that. It looks great, but his stuff is so good, and he's so great at writing very real characters, and I'm obsessed with him. He's one of those, like, if he's writing anything, I'll take a chance on it and buy it. I don't need to know anything else. So try to get him if you can.
Awesome. You know what? I will gladly aim for it. It's one of those things where I tell myself, well, I'm an indie channel. I want to help folks just like yourself, right? But it's like, you know what? If you get some of the big names, everyone starts somewhere. And then also I can help draw the attention in. So I will gladly reach out to Kieran Gillen. Because I like his stuff too. But yes, Nick, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight, man.
Well, no, thank you very, very much for having me, Konrad. This was a lot of fun.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear it. And for the folks at home, absolutely, please do comment down below what you thought of Gatorman Kills, what you think of Stilettos, what you think of Nick, Unearthly Comics, all the good stuff. Let me know. Subscribe for more, and we'll see you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't